folks, if you'll just gather around a little closer now. Come right in a little closer. That's it. That's fine, folks.
PBC, Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime already have Thursday night football. I don't think they mean proper football. They're talking about gridiron. And they have 200 million subscribers. In the article I'm reading, they don't seem sure how much of the subscribers are there for Prime Video or the expedited shipping and shopping service, fast track delivery. But let's get into what I want to talk about. Programs like Peaky Blinders, which I've watched maybe half an episode. I do have a concentration deficit for television, so it's not an indictment on the program, it's me. But from what I gather, programs like that were pretty popular on Amazon Prime in America and other locations. Now, that's a BBC production, and a lot of BBC programming is actually very popular in America and around the globe, for that matter. So what that tells me is what I've accused Americans of quite a lot, and unashamedly as well, is isolating what they do from the rest of the world and being almost proud of it when it limits the scope of business you can do, in all truth. How much success are you going to have if all you do is broadcast either subscription-based cards or pay-per-views at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning? That can only be lucrative to a certain demographic or in a similar time zone to those of you in America. Going app has to be approached with a global mentality or it will flop. This ain't Showtime, Bounce, or Fox. This is a global streaming app. An American streaming app, but a global streaming app. Like I keep saying, DAZN, their main offices are based in Britain, but they're a global streaming app. And you can critique and say, well, they haven't done a very good job because they're not repping any shit that you want to see in America. And that's fair enough. But you're not forced to pay for it. And globally, they've done more for boxing than the PBC could even dream. And if that's the case, maybe Al Heyman has to show Eddie Hearn how it's done and get the fighters active and get the productivity on the road. Let's see. If you're going to do the app thing and just want to cater to an American audience, you might as well have just hooked up with another American television network. After ridiculing the idea of fighting on a streaming platform or streaming app, they're basically going down the same road as DAZN. The thing is, though, is DAZN work all time zones. They work America's time zone, Greenwich London time zone, and they've got to acknowledge that, you know, you've got to do more than just regional shit. You know what I'm saying? You've got to do more. You've got to do more than that. You know, what are you going to do? The same shit you did with the Pox and ITV venture, one card, and it's all over? No. It's time to break out of this us, and them. It's time to break out of that. Even in the UK, the little tribalism between Eddie and Frank Warren, at least temporarily, been put on ceasefire because of all the money that they're putting up with Turkey, Al Sheikh and them dudes in Saudi Arabia. It's the only way to get business done. I don't think Amazon Prime are going to be giving Al the bag to conduct all business on this side of the street. You see, Thursday night football is different to boxing. It's totally different to boxing. They can stay self-contained in their franchise in America and broadcast to America and all the other people who watch gridiron outside America. They've got a contingency of gridiron fans in Britain, and I know because I got stuck in the traffic jam last year when they played a game at Tottenham and White Hart Lane. I got stuck. The job now is to make people purchase Amazon Prime, and not just in America. You've got to make them purchase it. And it's a hard job. But it's 2023, and everything is just turned upside down on its head. You know what I mean? I don't have Prime Video, but I saw a lot of people in the UK respond and say, oh, at least we can get the PBC on Prime because they have it. So that's a good start. That's a good start. My last thought for now this is, the scariest thing is if he goes over there and tries to replicate the exorbitant, overinflated, not worth the dollar amount pay-per-views that he's been putting on for the last 3 to 4 years. If he goes over there and does that, I don't know. I just have to hope that Amazon Prime have their eye on the ball and lay down some rules. Because if you don't, Al Heyman will run your shit into the ground. That's the track record.
The board feel any athlete, not just a boxer, but any athlete who has failed the drug test needs to go through an investigation, and that with the proper authorities, and that hasn't happened. And we're waiting for that to happen. And the boxing board and UCAD have been pushing for that to happen right from the beginning of this. And unfortunately, it's been delayed, not through the Boxing Board of Control or UCAD, but through other parties. With regard to Mr. Benn boxing this country, we have had an application for him to box in this country that has been refused.
Did Billy Joe Saunders go for an investigation when he failed a test outside of the jurisdiction of the British Boxing Board of Control? VADA testing. And does this mean you now acknowledge VADA testing when implemented on a fight on British soil? We didn't get none of them questions because we had the old Smiley boys on Talk Sport dealing with it who couldn't wait to stick the knife in. You know, now some people are going to say, well, UCAD policy on the nasal spray that Billy was said to have ingested is different to VADA policy. UCAD policy said it was out of competition. VADA policy says in competition. So you can't compare the two. Well, you can compare the two, because whether the policy is different, the debate is how can you ignore VADA policy with Billy Joe Saunders, and now you're using it in your case to not let Conor Benn fight in the UK. It's an inconsistency. Now in August, the board said they were going to appeal the National Anti-Doping Panel's decision to lift the suspension that UCAD placed upon Conor Benn. Today, on Talk Sport, naturally, that's where they always run to, Robert Smith said, we're ready to put an appeal in, but their attempt to put an appeal in is being blocked by an outside party. And I'm assuming they're talking about a representative of Conor Benn. Why would they need Conor Benn? What would they need Conor Benn for if they're going to put an appeal in? They're talking about they're going to put an appeal in January. Looks like they're trying to find loopholes to keep Conor out of the sport. That's what it looks like. They're saying they need to put Conor through an investigation. Well, how did you or UCAD come to the conclusion to suspend him if you didn't have an investigation to look through his case? You can't suspend somebody without no evidence. I think DAZN are going to be looking at this, and it's becoming bad publicity. Maybe they're going to have no choice but abort the fight. We'll see. We'll see. And if that's the case, they should move on. They should move on. Chris should go challenge Johnny Beck for that, or should I say for them unified straps. There's some good fights out there for Conor.
You know, but I think we've seen both fighters step on stage, show their professionalism, their maturity, their ambition they still have in such a big fight. I think this is going to be one for the purists. And if they step it up to 3-minute rounds, I'm telling you now, you're going to see it's going to make the fight even more exciting because you'll see fatigued fighters having to fight through when they're tired and having digging deep in that last minute round. I think it'll make a massive difference.
Matt,
you like to sprint.
He doesn't want to say anything, does he?
No, I've said it, haven't I? I think you lose the pace, you lose the ferocity, the tenacity, because that pace would be unsustainable if it was 3 minutes.
I just think if you've got two fighters saying they want to do it, why not let them make the choice?
So it was October the 27th, where Amanda Serrano outpointed Daniela Ramos, defending her IBF world titles at 126. In a departure from the usual 10 2-minute rounds, it was contested over 12 3-minute rounds. Amanda Serrano won a decision. So it's came back up today. Michaela Mayor is set to fight Natasha Jonas for Jonas's IBF World Welterweight title. And Michaela was in the UK today at a press conference campaigning to get the fight fought over 12 threes as opposed to 10 twos. So the debate now is, what do we do from here? More and more females are pushing for the 12 3-minute duration like the men. Katie Taylor said if she fought Amanda Serrano, she wouldn't mind fighting 12 3-minute rounds. Alright, so let's go back to March 2017. Katie Taylor had an 8-round lightweight fight against Milena Colbert in Manchester. It says here Katie put her former world title challenger opponent on the canvas in the penultimate round, and while she could not force the finish, Taylor later claimed that the stop-start nature of 2-minute rounds in pro women's boxing makes it more difficult to record a stoppage or knockout in women's fights. Robert Smith, the General Secretary of the British Boxing Board of Control, revealed that they will soon consider the possibility of increasing the rounds to 3 minutes. At the time, he said, women's boxing has moved on, so we have to look at it. Taylor's performances had demonstrated a dramatic improvement in the quality of women's pro boxing. And Robert Smith was saying that there was a good chance of change by summer of that year, but we've heard nothing from the board since. And even back then, the WBC, who wouldn't sanction Amanda Serrano's recent 12-3 fight, were issuing conflicting statements on the topic, even back then in 2017. And they were citing health and safety, why they will not sanction 12 minutes or 10 minutes for that matter. Boxing Union of Ireland, which has all of a sudden become relevant because back in 2017, with the Regency Hotel incident, where an individual was shot dead, there hasn't been no pro boxing in Ireland until recently, where Katie's had her last 2 fights this year, and they're planning the next fight, hopefully for Croke Park, or at the least back at the Free Arena. The Boxing Union of Ireland president at the time, I don't know if he's still there, Mel Christie, said he would only support the idea of 3-minute rounds subject to the best medical advice on the issue. Christie explained that all depends on the medical committees of the various governing bodies. You have to consult the medical experts to make the final decision. So typically, the board said they were going to act on it in 2017, and they haven't. I ran a little poll. A, should women's title fights be fought at 12-3s? Or B, leave it as it is, 10-2s? 236 votes so far. 41% would like to see an increase to 12-3s, and 44% are saying leave it as it is. 14% undecided. Canelo Munguia, May 2024. How's it going to work? He's fell out with Oscar De La Hoya. Does he fight under the Golden Boy banner under any circumstances? Or will Oscar have to make a little compromise, put the fight on MATCHROOM? We know Canelo and Eddie Hearn is good money, and then we'll get the big all-Mexican clash. Jaime is good money with the Mexican fans. He might not be that talented, but his fights are like roller coaster rides. And they'll go down a treat, not just with the Mexican fan base, but with the boxing fans. That's a big fight in terms of excitement. But where does that leave the Mexican monster? A lot of people are demanding that Canelo and David Benavidez is next. That's what they're demanding. Or they're going to label Canelo as a duck. I believe the fight will happen, providing Canelo gets through Munguia. David has to keep the momentum going. Maybe have a tune-up, nothing too hard. Or possibly the David Morrell fight. And by summer 2024, well, more like winter 2024, providing both men do not lose the interim fights, it will happen. It will happen. Where else has Canelo got to go? There's nowhere too high. People are saying he's going to duck David Benavidez. Duck him how? How's he going to duck him? He can't duck him. The only acceptable alternative outside David Benavidez after Munguia is trying to avenge the Bivol loss. And I just don't see that happening at this stage of Canelo's career. I don't see that happening. The fight itself, I'm not in the camp that believes that Benavidez is just going to walk through Canelo. But at this stage here, it could be a timing thing, just catching Canelo at the right time. Also, can David afford a slow start, losing rounds like he did against Andrade, getting lit up a little, and get away with that against Canelo, who has a way better chin, way better endurance, just a lot tougher and a lot more savvy than Andrade. Indeed, it's a very interesting fight. Canelo, possibly approaching the last phase of his career, but still hasn't shown any vulnerability around the chin or any adverse reaction to body shots. And David is not a one-punch hitter-quitter type, but he can hit hard. He also loads up. And I'm not saying he doesn't have a good punch selection, but at times he will telegraph. He will telegraph. A little clumsy at times. And I believe Canelo has the counter-punching skills to take advantage of the loading up. I do believe that. But David has a belief in his Matthew Saad Muhammad impersonation where he could take your best and catch you down the stretch. He has an unwavering belief that he can do that. It might be a dangerous belief to take into a Canelo fight, but you need that kind of belief in yourself if you're going to fight Canelo. You need that kind of belief. Canelo's taken the best from good hitters like Triple G, Danny Jacobs, and more. He's been up to 175. No rehydration with the likes of Dimitri Bivol. I don't envision David Benavidez overwhelming Canelo and stopping him. I don't. He'll have to work very hard for a points win, possibly a controversial points win, at best. At best. I don't see Canelo knocking David out either. This is a tough fight written all over it. If anyone's going to get the stoppage, I'd say Canelo. I'd say he has the better selection, the faster hands. I don't know if he has more power at 168, but it's comparable. Canelo got the better defense, better footwork, and is by far the best opponent that David Benavidez has been in with. There's nothing comparable. There's nothing comparable. All the people saying that Benavidez is going to walk through Canelo, there's nothing on his resume comparable to Canelo. And I'm not trying to blow too much smoke up Canelo's back orifice or anything like that. But that's the facts, as far as I'm concerned. I believe David's got a lot of work to do. If he's going to take that fight, he's still got work to do. That defense might not be good enough to come out with a W against Canelo. Might not be good enough. But at the same time, the youth is on his side. The size is on his side. I think a lot of people like the stylistic matchup where he brings pressure like no other Canelo opponent apparently. We was expecting that from Triple G. The Mexican style, we didn't really get it. Can't just wade in with your feet all over the place against Canelo. You can't do that. You need a bit of a jab and good timing to be able to put that pressure on Canelo. Is David Benavidez better than Triple G at that? I don't think size alone will bring Canelo's demise. I just don't believe so. But maybe, like I said, you're catching him at the right time. So, Top Rank outbid MATCHROOM, bidding $317,000. MATCHROOM bid $250,000 in a purse bid that I thought was straightforward. I was of the understanding that KHOLMATOV wasn't signed to a major promotion, while Ray Ford has been at MATCHROOM and DAZN for a little while. Eddie said they bid what they thought was the value of the fight, and they got beaten to the purse bid by Top Rank. Looks like Top Rank are going to be putting full backing behind KHOLMATOV in this vacant WBA featherweight title fight. Part of me is wondering, is Ray Ford questioning how much faith MATCHROOM and DAZN have in him? It's a 50-50 split as well. Ian John Lewis has withdrawn his claim of race discrimination made against the British Boxing Board of Control. At the Employment Tribunal, the parties have reached an agreed confidential settlement to resolve their differences without any admission of liability. The British Boxing Board of Control reaffirms its commitment to equality, diversity and inclusion and will continue to work to ensure the trust of all of those involved in the sport of professional boxing that there is no place for discrimination in this sport on the grounds of any protected characteristic, and they strive to ensure that it upholds those values at all times. Well, that's what they all say. Did Ian John Lewis take the money and run rather than try bring the board to justice? He no longer referees with the British Boxing Board of Control. He's now with the PBA, the Professional Boxing Association, who cover the misfits cards. The other black referee, Jeff Hines, he has a case, I believe, of race discrimination against the board. I don't know if that's been resolved or if it's still ongoing. Will he go all the way or will he withdraw? Ian John Lewis was demoted from star class to A class after the verdict for the Josh Taylor Jack Catterall fight, where he scored in favor of Josh Taylor. Well, there was another referee who scored in favor of Josh Taylor as well. In all truth, Ian John Lewis has a history of refereeing decisions that came into question, in all truth. Jeff Hines may have a stronger case, but we'll see. The British Boxing Board of Control always pleading poverty. Where are they getting money to pay out-of-court settlements? I'm sure it was a financial settlement. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know what the arrangement was. The details weren't disclosed. Peace.